So before we begin the episode today, I thought it would be nice to just take a couple of minutes and read some information, some career statistics about my guest, because it's pretty unbelievable what he has amassed as a recording musician in his career thus far. Just some of the information about him. He's recorded in excess of 12,000 songs and can be heard on over 2,000 album releases, including motion picture soundtracks, compilation projects, greatest hits packages. Over 300 of those albums and singles have combined and have received over 1,400 silver, gold, and platinum certifications worldwide. Unbelievable. Representing global sales in excess of 540 million units. Recordings he's played on, 150 Grammy Award nominations and wins combined. Over 40 Academy Awards, Golden Globes, American Music Award nominations and wins combined. He can be heard on the scores or soundtracks of more than 150 movies, and is played or performed on well over 100 different television specials and series, multiplied by countless episodes across various seasons. He's the winner of the Modern Drummer magazine's Reader Poll Award for Drummer of the Year in country category 8 years in a row, nominated 8 times as Drummer of the Year by the Academy of Country Music. Recorded with Lionel Richie, Kenny Chesney, Whitney Houston, Kenny Rogers, Bette Midler, Shania Twain, Tim McGraw, Faith Hill. Movies include The River, Tank, Dirty Dancing, Cannonball Run, Smokey and the Bandit II, Elvis and Me, Star Wars Return of the Jedi, one of my personal favorites. TV shows Wonder Woman, Knight Rider, Dukes of Hazzard, Elvis, Fall Guys, Spencer for Hire, Tonight Show, Growing Pains, Battlestar Galactica, Barbara Mandrell and the Mandrell Sisters, and Dolly. I just could go on and on and on, but I think it's time to welcome the legendary Mr. Paul Leim to the podcast. How are you, Paul?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thank you very much for having me, Brad.
I think I've read that about 10 times because it's just, I'm in awe of it. And I'm curious, when you hear that information, does it still blow your mind after all these years?
I was talking with Jeannie just this morning. When you start preparing for something like this, you start thinking, okay, what are we going to talk about? And like I said, it goes, like I mentioned to you the other day, you said, I said, what are we going to talk about? Pick anything from Roy Rogers to Tom Jones and Shania Twain to Reba McEntire and Dolly. And oh my gosh, it just goes on and on. And Jeannie and I were talking about it this morning. And every once in a while you go, who is that?
Yeah.
Who's that? That took a while. Yeah, it took 60 years. I've been doing this 60 years.
I mean, it's, you hear that phrase that some session players have forgotten more sessions than most players have played. And I imagine that you've played thousands of sessions in your career. The soundtrack of all of our lives you've been a part of. It's unbelievable.
Well, thank you very much. That's incredibly kind of you. I'm one of the fortunate ones that grew up to be who he wanted to be. I'm not quite as good a drummer as I really want to be, but it's worked out pretty well.
I would say so.
I always tell Dave and Vinny and Steve, I go, man, you guys are the caviar. You're the icing on the cake. I'm the meat and potatoes guy. So, but they're all great friends, and we all respect each other. I love those guys, and it's just I just can't even believe I'm considered anywhere near the same category as those guys, because they're just monsters.
In my book, you're in that list. I mean, it has to be that you are one of the most recorded drummers in the history of recorded music. I mean, you've got to be in the top tier of that list. I mean, with Hal Blaine and John Robinson, and I mean, you're there, man. It's unbelievable.
Well, thank you. I would never challenge Hal's. Hal was a dear friend, and I would never challenge his seniority or prowess. And but I'm just happy to be. I've just been happy to be at the party for 60 years.
That's it. Well, and I'll tell you the thing that I've in preparing for this, and just things that I've watched and listened to over the years, reading interviews in Modern Drummer as I was coming up as a percussionist myself. It's always felt to me like you've never taken it lightly what you've had the opportunity to do, and it's felt like, I would call it a calling, a responsibility of what you have, that you've been given this gift, and that you're gonna share it with the world.
That's exactly the way I feel. I've always talked about my angels, and the people that believed in me more than I did, or the people that heard something that I had that I didn't even know I had. And my first band director, Neil Grant, I always honor him. Robin Hood Bryans when I was 15, and he said, "Kid, how would you like to play on records?" And I'm like, "I want to play anywhere I can." And my mom had to take me to first session. I ever did Robin Hood, and uh, and then Robin Hood, and then all the guys in Dallas, the studio guys in Dallas, that took me under their wing, which led to Doc Severinsen, and then Doc is one of my heroes. Not only one of my heroes, because the other instrument I played in high school and junior high band was trumpet.
Oh, okay.
So certainly Doc was a hero. And then once I got to meet Doc, and he's like a second father to me. And so it just we spent years with Doc and doing his album Night Journey, and it just and then on and on. I mean, yeah, I just had these angels along the way when it came to a time in my career that it was like I can keep doing this. I can keep doing this same thing, and everything will be fine. I can stay in Dallas. I'm doing, I'm working as much as I can. I'm doing club gigs at night. I'm traveling with Doc Severinsen on the weekends. I'm doing, uh, 400 sessions a year doing jingles, and I can stay in Dallas here and do jingles for the rest of my life and play clubs, and it would have been fine. But there was just something that pushed me that further, and I took a big leap of faith in '77. I was great friends with the TCB band, Elvis's band, and with Ron Tutt and Jerry Scheff. We'd gotten to be friends in '71, and then lo and behold, Ronnie was one of my heroes, playing with Elvis, of course. And then our kids grew up together. We're best
Oh,
friends. Donna, his wife, and my wife Jeannie are inseparable. And it just now that Ron's gone, we're the three amigos. We travel together, we do dinners together, and we always feel like Ron's kind of still sitting there with us having a glass of wine.
mm,
Uh,
yeah.
only, only time I only time I couldn't stand up is when they when they carried Ron out of the house.
Mm,
That was really hard.
yeah.
I respected the man so much. I learned so much from the man, and we spent a lot of just years and years, decades together. Uh, he would always with Peisty, he would always order all these tremendous order of cymbals. Then we'd go through all of them and find the ones he loved and the ones I liked, and we'd send back all the rest. And I'd order whatever. That was great. But I loved Ron, and again, another one of my angels.
Yeah. What a player he was, and just like a cannon of a drummer.
Yeah,
Just
yeah, and he let the mics work. He didn't really pound that hard because we've done shows where we've split the shows, either playing together or where he would do one night and I would do the next night, either with Neil Diamond or Elvis the concert, and be the same mic setting, sometimes even the same set. If he had a conflict or I had a conflict or something, we'd split the shows, and not in the middle of the show, but split the tour, and I would come in and sit down at the set, and and boom, it goes off in the auditorium, and the engineer goes, "What was that?" And I said, "I just hit the bass drum." He said, "Man, you're playing so hard." And it's like, so I knew Ronnie always sounded like his drums always sounded like they were cannons, but he taped everything up real tight. And then when he would hit, he was really not hitting that hard. But man, the impact, and he knew how to play just hard enough, and he used a lot of dynamics. I learned a lot about dynamics from Ronnie. Of course, in the era of triggering that we invented in Los Angeles for all the records we were doing in LA, triggering the Simmons drums and triggering the SDS5 and triggering the F16, the 4-at F16, triggering all that stuff. We had to throw dynamics out the window in the studio because you'd had to get above the threshold of the trigger and the stuff to clean up the trigger so one tom didn't talk to the other tom.
right.
That was a whole episode we went through. And then when engineers discovered Pro Tools and became the rulers of the universe, they wanted to do all the triggering themselves. So So we didn't need the trigger anymore. So I quit doing that, gosh, 15 years ago. And some of the engineers still ask for it. Man, I love that sound you used to get, but you do that. So you guys all wanted to be the rulers of the universe. You can replace them. You can replace them faster than I can get it going here.
I'm just the drummer again, man. That's it.
Thank goodness. So yeah. So but yeah, the whole thing back to not believing it is I just can't believe it, and I'm so honored that I had this opportunity. I don't know how many more years I've got. We all have our limits of what our bodies will do. So, but I'm still going at it for a while here.
That's awesome. How much are you getting to play these days?
Oh well, we've got several different things going on. I'm still doing the TCB band.
Mm-hmm.
And we tour in Europe in January and February. Then I put together one of the promoters that's bought our show, the TCB band featuring Dennis Jale in Europe. Oh, we have so much fun. We've got a cruise, another cruise of the Mediterranean coming up mid-October, a couple of weeks. And anyway, all the TCB guys, James Burton and Jerry Scheff was doing it. And of course, Ronnie was doing it for about 5 years. Ronnie and I did it together, both of us, and Glenn Harden, of course, on keyboards. And of course, Jerry's not there anymore. James is not there anymore. And of course, Ronnie's gone. We brought in Bob. We just brought Bobby Ogden back in, and he was the last keyboard player that worked with Elvis. So we just brought Bobby Ogden back into the band. I just put on a celebration of life for David Briggs last Sunday in Nashville, which was a big event for all those that love David and all of his contributions to music and being Elvis's band leader. But in effect, Elvis's band leader toward the end there, and they were best friends. And so there's all those connections, all those wonderful connections. I met Ronnie and Jerry in '71. Is that 50 years? I knew Ronnie for 50 years. So as far as playing goes, then I got off track. The other thing, I put together this promoter that had bought our show, the TCB show with Dennis Jale. He called me 3 years ago and he said, "Did you ever work with Johnny Cash?" And I said, "Well, yeah." He said, "Do you think you could put together an original Cash band like the TCB band with players that had worked with Elvis?" And I went, "Yeah." So I called Kerry Marks. He happens to be the musical director for the Grand Ole Opry now, but I had him in Linda Carter's band, and now I've got him in the TCB band. He took James Burton's place in the TCB band, and Dave Rowe. Then I was looking for a singer. Who are we going to use for a singer? It's got to be, man, if we had an original, what can some of the old guys do it? And I was working with Dave Cleveland. Dave Cleveland said, "Man, you got to hear this." And he played me a demo of a new song, and it sounded just like Johnny Cash. And I said, "Who is that?" And he said, "It's his grandson." I went, "What? We can have blood on stage?" So I put this thing together. I've got the trademark for it. It's called the Tennessee Four, featuring Thomas Gabriel. And we sell out tours in Europe and Denmark, doing a legacy. We're a legacy band. We're not a cover band. We all played with Johnny at one point,
right?
So it's a legacy band. So we call it Carrying On the Legacy, carrying on the Cash legacy. And we've got his grandson singing, of course, who Johnny was crazy about. So
that is amazing.
Yeah, it's fun. I've got some shows coming up with the $1 Million Quartet. Which is there was a Vegas production and a New York Broadway production of the $1 Million Quartet. Kenny's done some of the shows, and Kenny Aronoff, another buddy, has done some of the shows. And so I'm going to do some shows with the $1 Million Quartet. That'll be a lot of fun. So
that's great.
I don't have to do anything anymore, but I still love it. I just love it. And so I want to stay active. I want to stay busy. So putting these things together and kind of being the band leader, not kind of, I am the band leader for the TCB band now. I just kind of inherited it. And then, of course, the Cash thing, I put all that together in shows and everything. And so we have a lot of fun with that. And, I spent 40 years in the studio of my career, and I wouldn't leave. Back in 1980, a high school buddy of mine, Doug Rohn, he was with Neil Diamond. Only job he ever had was Neil Diamond. After we had in Tyler, Texas, he was a guitar player in our band called the Metropolitan Blues Band, and that turned into a band called Gladstone. And Robin Hood Bryan's my second angel that got me in the studio. We were all from Tyler, Texas, and he got that band, Metropolitan Blues Band, signed to Uni Records as a group called Gladstone. And so at the time, of course, Ronnie and Jerry were the two hottest bass player and drummers at the time in 1971. So Russ Regan, the president of the label at the time, I think it was Uni, he also signed Elton John at the time. And so he said, let's get some ringers in on this. And I totally understand it. You got to have the best studio guys in the world to make hit records, unless you're a band and you're go in the studio and you work on it for a year, that kind of stuff.
Right.
So they brought in Ronnie and Jerry, and that's when I met him in 1971. Then by 77, Jerry was calling me, said, man, Ronnie's out with Garcia and we really need you in LA and come out here. And he put together the band for Tanya Tucker's TNT album, which was my first gold record. And it's just, you develop these relationships, and in the music business is a small business. We all know each other. I'll listen to your interview of Matt Rawlings, and Matt, he and I was always kid each other. I would say, my son. He was the hair and the freckles and everything, right? I'd say, my son. Hey, Pop, how you doing? I think I'm only 13 years older than him. Pop and son, right? A lot of fun. I've got a funny story about Matt. What do you say about Matt Rawlings? He's a phenom. Matt Rawlings,
unbelievable,
absolute phenom. And Jim Ed Norman, president of Warner Brothers Records. Seemed like this would have been about. It was maybe around 1990 or something. I don't. But it seems like Matty was only about 22 years old, maybe 23. And he had this new kid, Matt Rawlings, on the record. And of course, I'd been doing Kenny's records in L.A. And then he signed to Warner Brothers, and so we started doing his records in Nashville. And so he and the Kenny and Dolly duets and all that stuff that we were doing. And so he has this young kid on piano. And when he sat down and played, it was like, oh my gosh, this kid's got facility. He's unbelievable. I immediately fell in love with him. And so this is probably where the pop thing comes from. So we're playing, and of course he's just on fire. He's sitting on the front of the beat, and we're playing. We're trying to get they were grooving along, and Matty's sitting just on top of it, right? That 22-year-old energy. And so Matt was real cocky. So in a good cocky way, right? He had a lot of confidence. Mm-hmm. And so we get about halfway through the session, and I said, man, you are unbelievable. I said, your facility is incredible. I said, Larry Mahobarak had told me this when I was I was about 30 when Larry told me this. See, 77. I was about 27 when Larry said, Paul, you better get ready. You're going to make a lot of money. And it's like, what? Yeah, you're going to, you need to plan things because you're going to make a lot of money. And so I told Matt the same thing. First time I'd ever continued that, I said, Matt, man, you're going to make a lot of money. I said, especially when you learn how to sit back in the groove with everybody else. When you sit back in the groove and get back in the groove, it pissed him off. He got so mad at me. And we laughed about that for the next 20 years.
Oh, that's amazing.
But oh man, I love Matty. He's unbelievable.
What a player. I remember hearing him play all that country stuff. And then I heard that MCA record he did with Patitucci and Carlos Vega that Hungate produced. And you hear him do like that whole that Bill Evans thing that he also can do as well as anybody. And it's like, come on,
Matt
seriously?
can do anything. Oh, you say Floyd Kramer, it's nothing to me. It just
it's nothing.
It's
nothing. It's unbelievable.
I don't know if you were familiar with a song we did with the new Nashville Cats with Mark O'Connor called "Pick It Apart."
Oh yeah,
have you heard?
I remember that song.
"Pick It Apart." Oh gosh, we would do that.
I mean it,
and he would do. It's actually
like Orange Blossom Special.
Orange Blossom Special, yeah. And we did it on American Music Shop, and then we did a couple concerts with Mark. We did it live, and it was like 8 minutes of 16th notes at almost 200 beats a minute. It was just like it was a test of mental and physical ability to try to get through that. But here you got Maddie over there just killing it. And then Paul Franklin and, of course, Brent Mason and Terry. Terry would be there and on percussion.
Terry McMillan. Oh,
Terry
man.
McMillan, yeah.
Yep.
And the problem with Terry and I was we would just walk in the room and start laughing. We'd look at him and start laughing. We just couldn't stop laughing. We were doing a project for this one producer one week, and the first 2 days we just walked in the room, started laughing. It was just constant laughter. And finally the producer said, "Paul and Terry, you have to stop. You have to stop. You got to stop laughing. I know this is fun. I know you guys love each other, but you have to stop." And so Terry and I, of course, looked at each other and just broke up.
Right. Yeah.
Laughing.
That's the last thing in the world someone needs to tell you is to stop laughing because it's going to make you laugh even more.
He never hired me again because I don't know if he ever hired Terry again either. But anyway, it was so much fun.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Man.
But you know, what a blessing you just mentioned Hungate. I mean, Hungate and I did hundreds of sessions together. And to have, and Lee Sklar, we did hundreds of sessions together.
Oh, man.
Joe Chimay and Abraham, and I've known Abram since we've had a church home group with he and Michael Lamardian at their house with Lynn. Lynn was our kid's first pediatrician when she first got her pediatrician's license. Lynn Laboriel was our first pediatrician for our new kid, our new sons. And I mean, our histories go back so far. We're all dear friends. Louis Conte and I played together with Doc Severinsen in 1978. Louis is like a brother. It's just we've spent all these decades just knowing each other so well, and we know our families, and I consider them all brothers, and I'm so fortunate to have spent my life playing with these gentlemen.
Yeah. I mean, the career you have had in everywhere you've lived, right? I mean, it started early in Texas, and then you moved out to LA, and you just got to work, Paul. I mean, it's unbelievable what you did in LA, and then went to Nashville and did the same thing.
I appreciate that. I'm so thankful. I really am so incredibly thankful.
What was what was a typical week like for you when you were living in LA as a player?
Okay.
I mean, I can't imagine how busy it was.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. I would have two drum sets and two whole sets of electronics. Uh, Steve Schaefer and I were the first ones to put together electronic racks in Los Angeles. Basically, it was a traveling programming studio, is what it was, and programming and triggering studio. And uh, there would be two sets, and one set would go like to Ocean Way for Lionel Richie, and then the next set would go to TBS on the Warner Brothers soundstage to do Dukes of Hazzard, and then I would go to do that, and then the set that was with Lionel would go to MGM to do Chips or something, and then the set from Warner's would go to A&M Studio A to do the American Music Awards, and then the set from MGM goes to 20th Century Fox to do Fall Guy, and then the set from here goes to Lion's Share to do Kenny Rogers, and this set goes to Devonshire to do Dirty Dancing with Michael Lloyd producing, and that would be literally a typical week. I'm in the middle of writing the book right now, and my assistant Tracy Todd, who was she was the head of programming for CMT television for 30 years. She worked her way up from being a intern, and she was there 30 years until they just let everybody go. And so we hired her immediately once we found out. And she wanted to do this entire forensics thing on my career, and she's found so many things that I completely forgot about. And she's incredibly detailed, and I'm so thankful for her in our lives. And I got a little off track there, but anyway, yeah, she I forgot where I was. I started talking about Tracy and forgot where I was.
So we were talking about your weekly schedule.
The weekly schedule, yeah. So we're working on the book, and she says, "Okay, will you check where you were on this day? Because you said you thought you remembered it was 1980. She said you did it, but I think it had to be in 81 because that album didn't come out till 81. So now I'll go back and look in the book, and I'll go, yeah, you're right. It was May of 81, 1980. And so she said, if you say that, it bounces off everybody's lips, and it's, oh, that happened. Yeah, that's great. But if you write it down in a book, people are going to read it and go, well, that couldn't have happened. That album didn't come out that year. So she's great about that kind of detail. And so as I look at the book and go, I've got all my schedule. I quit keeping a schedule about 15 years ago, thinking it was all going to end, and it just hadn't ended. I just never thought I'd get the opportunity to play this long. After 60, I just never thought. I just thought, the guys in LA always said, your record career will end at 40 to 42. Nobody gets called for records after 42 because the business doesn't think they're hip enough anymore. So make sure and take the TV shows so when the record career ends, you still got something to fall back on. All the legends like Hal and Chuck Berghofer and Chuck DeMonico and Tommy Tedesco that I worked with on TV every week, they said, start working on your TV accounts because those other accounts, once you're not the young cat in town anymore, that's going to end. We're just telling you that's going to end. And of course, I've always listened to the guys ahead of me, both in music and in business. I've always tried my best to do what they did, and and kind of followed their examples, those successful ones. And I highly recommend that to any of your young players listening. Is not only follow the lead of the guys that were successful ahead of you, because I stood on the shoulders of Hal Blaine and Ronnie Tutt and Louis Bellson that came ahead of me that I honored, and then the guys coming up. I've had guys say, "Man, I learned everything I play from listening to you." The hot guys in the studio now, Cherry Rowe and some of the guys in the studios now. in Nashville. And I've had so many players, just say they've listened to everything I ever played on, and they're so wonderful. We just had the Yamaha Night in the Pocket again, which has become a wonderful event whenever they have the drum show in Nashville in July. That's become a real hot ticket. We were just packed this year. It's an open event for the public, and some of the young guys coming up now. The Donald is with Gaga, and I don't remember everybody's names, but they just these young players are such wonderful, fine young men, and they have my signature snare. They wanted me to sign my signature snare for them, and I said, well, with a signature in here, you can probably get $5,000 for it on eBay. So if you have a slow month, I can tell you where you can come up with eBay. Money from eBay. And they said, oh, no, we'll never sell that. But anyway, it's an honor.
You talking about doing TV work and movie work. I know you've worked with a lot of conductors over the years. I know you've worked with John Williams, and I am going to ask you about working with John Williams. But I had a conversation with another drummer on here recently, and we were talking about working with conductors. And I know a lot of the time you've probably, you're working with a click, but there are times when you're probably not working with a click. And
Right.
And I'm curious for those drummers who may be listening to gain some wisdom from you on this. How have you approached that in your career of working with a conductor, where knowing when to be the driver and when to be the passenger? You know what I mean?
Well, that's a great question. That is a wonderful question. Some conductors, they'll say, read the page. Other guys will say, it's just Paul, it's just an outline. Do what you do. I love what you do. Do what you do. And I'll never forget one of the first sessions I did in L.A. was for Larry Mahobarak, and he was producing a group, a contemporary Christian group called the Archers. And it was the first session I ever did for Larry Mahobarak. And of course, Larry came through the Dallas Jingle Mill as well, and he pulled Ronnie out of the Dallas Jingle Mill also to go with Elvis. So Larry Mahobarak, he's the same one that told me I was going to make so much money. We're going to go. Anyway, so the first thing we did, he wrote out this part. He wrote this part, and in the first song I ever did with Larry Mahobarak, and the pattern was kick, snare, but the ta-tom, ta-tom, the kick, the snare, the ta-tom, the ta-tom, right? He had this beautiful thing written out. But you sit down for the first time, you're nervous anyway, because there's Larry Mahobarak, right, who we just got to be great friends, and I did all the ABC, da-da-da-da-da-da, all that stuff. And we, all these jingles and trade shows, and whenever he had TV shows or anything. Anyway, records, we did Ray Charles with him. Ray Charles said Larry Mahobarak played Ray Charles better than Ray Charles did. So it's Larry Mahobarak playing a lot of piano on the Ray Charles records.
Oh, wow!
Thinks it's Ray Charles. Anyway, so he wrote out this part. It was with all that written out. It was like, whoa, okay. So I looked at it, and I was figuring it out, and I just sat down, and just as I'm starting to look at it, he walks in the drum booth back in that time. In 1977, drums were all in a cubby hole in the corner, right? And he walks in and he says, the funniest line a drummer can ever hear when they're looking at a piece of music, is that playable? It's like, okay, if I say no, then I'm I'm making him look silly, and I don't want to do that. Right. And then if it is playable, then you should be able to play it.
Right. You've committed yourself to have to play it.
Yeah.
Right.
And so then it was like, yes, but I don't know if right now.
Good answer.
So I looked at it. He said, I think it sticks okay. Because Mahobarak, he just heard like Mutt Lange, just heard all the parts in his head. He was not as detailed as Mutt Lange. You could just play it and he would be fine. He didn't go to the minutia that Mutt does. But anyway, so he said, I think it's just kick, snare, ta-tom, ta-tom, to kick, snare, chi, and then it's almost the hi-hat pattern was almost like Ed played on uh, uh, do you something body down to the ground now? Doom, it's doom, doom, but it was doom,
Oh yeah.
you know, and that with all that going, and it was a beautiful pattern. And so he said, I think this is it. And he sang me the part, and I went, yeah, that's what it is. Perfect. So I
Perfect.
played it immediately. But anyway, it was that was you sometimes, like they say, studio work. Tommy used to say studio work is 95% boredom and 5% sheer terror, right? And that's pretty much what it was. You know, it's
That's
they could you could find yourself in a place where you're going, okay, right. I'm standing behind 5 timpani with John Williams, and
oh my.
I'm not a trained mallet player or master percussionist here, and his brother is, and so yeah, but his I think it was Jerry Williams. I think was the percussionist. I believe it was Jerry. I think there was a Tom. Believe it or not, I thought there was a Tom and a Jerry. I'd have to be clear on that. But anyway, he said, Paul, he said, you got this. You got the notes. He said, I've got all the temps tuned. I've got to go over and do a glockenspiel part. And it was great. Okay. That was on the river, as a matter of fact. And I'd been called for drum set. John would call me for drum set. And then when I didn't have a cue on drums, I would go over and be in the percussion department or percussion section on any of the TV shows that all the stuff. And so I learned all the water chimes and all the boobams from Emil and Joe Porcaro. I mean, I got an education that you can't pay for from those guys.
They were like Foley artists almost, but using percussion instruments. Yeah. It was amazing what they could do.
But they were just, oh gosh, those guys. I learned so
Masters.
much. Getting to LA, you know, at 28 years old, and then within 2 years, here I am. I think they all thought I came out of North Texas, and I came out of honky tonks in East Texas. I mean, I studied at SMU with Paul Guerrero. But yeah, it was amazing, and they didn't know. I didn't think I knew what I was doing. So I'm not one to stand up here and say I can read fly you know what for 50 paces, but I held my own through all that stuff.
Yeah, that's amazing.
But anyway, so yeah, so. The pucker factor was high on that particular cue with John Williams.
Yeah. What did you play? So I have to ask you about playing on Return of the Jedi. As you can probably see over my shoulder, I have some Star Wars arcade games. What did you play on that?
It was on Return of the Jedi, and what had happened was, and there's a little bit of, we're trying to figure out the exact time of that too. But John called me last minute. I went into 20th Century Fox, and Armin Steiner was the engineer. I went into Fox, and John had scribbled out this thing. He said they're reissuing the Star Wars series on digital, and they've gone in and they've modified the videos on them, and added more characters and stuff like that. And they want to change the music, so that's what we're about here. And so we recorded the tracks. Jerry Hay did the horn arrangements on them.
Would that have been in the mid to late 90s when they would have done that? When did
it was. Well, see, there's a controversy there. I'm still trying to figure out when that went down. We think it went down earlier than that, and then it actually came out much later, is what we're thinking.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So
that would make sense too.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I did want to ask you about. I kind of have a little bit of a wish list of some of the projects you played on. I'd love to just hear a little bit about your time. I mean, just the work with Lionel Richie alone could be one's career as a session drummer. The hits that, again, are in the American Songbook that Lionel did that
Yeah.
you just grooved your tail off on.
Oh, thank you.
How did those sessions come your way, and what was that experience like working with Lionel, and that those unbelievable rhythm sections for all those records you guys did?
Well, we were at Lion's Share recording Kenny Rogers. We were doing let's see, I think on that session, I believe we did, it seems like it was Blaze of Glory. It was when we were doing Blaze of Glory, I think it was around 79 or 80, right in there. And Jim Mazza, Kenny Rogers' manager and the head of the label, EMI, I believe it was, and the record label I was talking about earlier, I said EMI for that. I think that was Uni Records. This was EMI. Jim Mazza had put them together. So they called Lionel in to a session just to stop by the studio. So he stopped by the studio. We were either doing Blaze of Glory or Scarlet Fever, it seems like. And that day, as I recall. Lionel came in and we all met Lionel, and he says, "This is my band. I love this band." So sure enough, we went in and we did the first thing we cut on him was Truly. Mm-hmm. And we did it at A&M Studio B, and that was A&M Studio B. We also did Hello at A&M Studio B, but he forgot that we'd recorded it, and that's a whole different story. It didn't make it till the second album, when by then we were recording all digitally, and we were recording at Ocean Way. But the first, so if you listen to those records too, you'll hear that Hello is a little warmer, a little richer on the bottom than the rest of the tracks on the second Lionel Richie album, which I think was Can't Slow Down. Because it was recorded 2 years earlier on analog tape as opposed to isn't that wild? That's a whole different story. But so back to Truly and working with Lionel, we cut Truly, and then the next week I get a phone call from Lionel. He says, "Paul," he says, "I know you do all these sessions, and you've been in this. You've seen artists come and go." And he says, "Man, I love our session with the other day." He said. How do you feel about me leaving the Commodores? He said, they're like my brothers, and a lot of artists have left bands and then they just fail because they're just not part of what people recognize anymore. And I was like, Lionel, this is a home run. You're a home run, man. I'll never forget saying, "This is a home run. You're a home run." I said, "Man, you got nothing to worry about." Lionel was actually wondering if he was making the right decision. It was the fork in the road. I could do a symposium on forks in the road where you have to choose. There's a point. It happened with Lionel Richie and Michael Lamardian for me. It happened with the studio and Neil Diamond with me. I had to choose. It happened in the studio and James Taylor. When Lee called me to go out with James Taylor in 1980, and I'd always wanted to work with James Taylor. I love Neil Diamond, but we had two little boys, and I just couldn't leave them. I just couldn't go down that road. I would have been sick to not see my sons every night, and of course, Jeannie. But that's a whole separate story. But You're going to come to if your young players are going to come to forks in the road all through their career, and you're going to sweat over it. You're going to lose sleep over it, and you just really have to trust your gut. And I prayed about it every time. And if that peace comes over you after you pray about it, that then some are believers and some aren't believers, and that's fine. I respect everybody, but I have to personally get to a point where I just can't handle it anymore myself, and then I'll pray about it. And most of the time, it goes boom. Okay, that's what it's
Yeah.
supposed to be, and this is the way we're going.
I'll share my own.
Oh, so I'm
My
sorry.
yeah.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, it came to me, funny enough, mine came to me in marriage counseling with my wife, where I had an epiphany that whatever I say yes to, I say no to something else. So I need to be really careful about what I'm saying yes and no to, right?
Oh,
And that's where it was for me. So I completely understand those forks of
I
make
like
sure that the yes is is where your priorities need to be.
that's
So
brilliant. No, I like that. I like that. These things are so important in life,
yeah.
and I just made the family choice. And strangely enough, exactly 30 years later, and I'll talk a little bit more about Lionel Sessions in a minute, but exactly 30 years later, I was doing the White House with, we did country at the White House, and JT was there with us. And matter of fact, I gave James Taylor my very last serial number of my signature series snare drum. Uh, Once they discontinued them, they sent me the last three or four or something like that. And so we're rehearsing to get ready to do the show at the White House. And James says, "What is that snare drum? I love the sound of that snare drum." And I said, "Oh," and he walked back behind the drums. And I said, "It's my signature snare." And I pulled it out and looked. He said, "What's different about this drum? I want to know about this drum." And I went, "Well, it's chrome over brass and an additionally wide strainer on it, and die cast hoops, and you can adjust the tension from either side. And I've just had a lot of success putting chrome over brass snare drums on hit records. I uh, all the Lionel Richie records, all the Amy Grant hits, all the Shania Twain hits, they're all chrome over brass drums and snare drums." And so he said, "I love this drum." And I said, "I'm going to send you the very last one, And so I sent him the very last serial number.
Really?
But anyway, so 30 years later, I told in 1981, Lee Sklar was his band leader and called and said, "Paul, would you like to be with us with James Taylor?" And I said, "Man, that'd be great." So I tell my two little boys, 2 and 3 years old, uh, uh, Daddy's going to go on a tour, and it's going to be a while. I'm going to be away from home a little while. And they said, "Well, how long?" And I said, "Well, a year. It's probably going to be a year tour, but I'll be back home some in that." "Well, Daddy, how long's a year?" And I thought, well, from Christmas to Christmas. Christmas to Christmas for a 3-year-old is forever.
It's
It's
an
not like the
eternity.
same as for
Yeah.
a 60-year-old. It's
Yeah.
next month. Every month is Christmas.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But for a 3-year-old, and they started crying. I started crying. Jeannie started crying. And I said, "Well, it's not now. It's not now." So then about 2 weeks later, we were having the first rehearsal, and uh, I, and Lee said, "Paul, there's going to be some other players coming in, but I've already talked to JT, and you're set up last, so we're going to go right into rehearsal after that." Great. So I go to walk out the door to go to the first rehearsal with James Taylor, and my 2-year-old says, "Daddy, are you leaving for a year now?" And he starts crying. And then my 3-year-old starts crying. My 2-year-old, my 3-year-old, they start crying. Then Jeannie starts crying. Then I start crying, and I go, "No, I'm not."
I can't do.
And I
No.
went and picked up the phone, and I called Lee, and I said, "Lee, I can't do this." And I thought he was going to be mad at me because we worked together all the time. I thought he was going to be mad at me, and I said, "Lee, I can't go." And he said, "Paul,
Yeah.
man, thanks so much for letting me know. This is the time to let me know. Not a month from now when you're homesick and we have to get somebody else and teach somebody else the show overnight. When
Right.
you get so
Yeah.
homesick you can't leave." And he said, "Thank you for telling me now." So I told that story to JT exactly almost to the month, 30 years later, in the West Wing of the White House when we're on stage. I said, James, I finally get to play with you, and here's what happened. And I told the story real quick, and then cameras were rolling. We shoot this one scene, and then he comes back and says, Paul, tell me that story again. So I told him the whole story again. He said, you made the right decision. And I went, thank you. I think so too, because we have a great
Yeah.
family, and that was the right decision for me to just
It,
stay in the studio.
it was the right decision. I completely agree. Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah, that was one of those forks in the road.
That's it. That's
Forks in the
exactly it.
road. Yeah. And then the next month, Doug Rowan called me for Neil Diamond. Same thing. And my studio career was by 91 was just 81. Sorry, by 81, my studio career was just taking off. I was working so much. To walk away from all that would have been a shame.
Yeah. Again, it's, especially as we get older, I'm so thankful for the things those moments that I chose to be a present dad.
Yeah.
Because you don't get that time back.
Mm-hmm.
It's
no.
Yeah. I have a 24-year-old son now and a 14-year-old daughter, and he was just visiting. He lives in Austin, and every time we're all together, I just know that as I'm getting older, it's one less time I'm going to get to be with my entire family with just the four of us. They're going to grow up and have their own family and things like that. And I just cherish those moments, and I just applaud you for. It would be very tempting to make that decision and say, "Oh, no, I'm going to go and do this," but I applaud what you did.
Well, thank you. You're a wise man to do the same and cherish your family like that. You really are a wise man. Matter of fact, our daughter and her wonderful husband and our three grandchildren just moved back in with us at our main home in Franklin, and we are just absolutely thrilled about that. We get to see the grandkids every morning, unless I'm on tour or out here at the Vegas house or at our lake house. But anyway, it's just we've just got the most amazing lives, and I'm so incredibly thankful.
Yeah, that's at the end of the day, that's what matters the most.
Yeah.
So, all right, I want to jump back in. I'm going to ask you another album.
Yeah.
This one's a little different. I want to talk about the Lyle Lovett and its Large Band album, which I didn't realize until digging in for this episode that you played on that, and it's some fantastic drumming and just maybe a little bit. I mean, I've heard you swing like nobody's business, but you don't get recorded playing that kind of music as much as I think you probably should have. So it's really nice to hear you playing that. I'd love to hear any memories you may have had with playing those sessions. I just had Ray Herndon on here on the podcast.
Oh, did you?
Just a couple weeks ago.
Oh,
and then
great.
I've had Matt and
yeah, sure.
They just all have so much love and respect for Lyle and just what he does and how he does it, and just what an amazing human being he seems to be.
He's a great guy. I love Lyle. He's a great guy. And I was so thrilled when I got that call to do that album. I hadn't been in Nashville long, as I recall. I don't recall what year that was. What do you know? What year it was?
I'll tell you what. Let's fact check it.
I get called. And of course, I knew that Maddie was in his band, and so I knew it was going to be great with Maddie on it. And so I get to the studio, and it's Lee Sklar. Lee's on it. And so I'm this is going to be a really good day, right? And so we record the first thing, and the very first thing we did, the
Blues Walk.
The Blues Walk, right?
Yeah.
And sorry, they run together. I played on so many. So the Blues Walk. So we're listening to a playback. And Lyle's standing there in the back of the room just smiling. And Lee and I both look back at him and say, so when do the vocals come in? Oh, there's no vocals. There's no vocals on this one. We're like, really? Okay. All right. It's an instrumental. Fantastic. There used to be great instrumental records. There were hit records back in the 60s where, Floyd Kramer would do an instrumental album. and Chet would do instrumental albums, and or Baby Elephant Walk with Hank Mancini, and you would have hit records that were instrumentals, and it was just, we went, thank God somebody did this. That's fantastic. And so, but that's the first thing I remember about that. And then, of course, is the intricacies of Lyle's music, and he's unlike any other artist on the planet. He's just so unique, and that was I loved that record. Matter of fact, it's the one on the left, right.
Yep, I see it right there. There it is.
Yeah, the one on the
1989.
Right,
I look.
right.
Yeah, it's
there. I think that's it right there.
That is right under Whitney Houston. Yeah, amazing.
You see it? Yeah,
yeah.
So what that's about, what that multi-platinum record is about, is Yamaha called and said they were redoing their offices. They said, "Can you send us one of your gold records? We're asking all the cats to send us one of their gold or platinum records. You just send us one. Would you mind?" "No, that'd be great." So I went upstairs, and I was going to pull Lionel off the wall, and I was going to pull Shania off the wall, and I even thought about pulling Lyle off the wall. And I went, "There's no way to cover this for what it is." And I don't mean me. It just what it is with just sending one record. So I went, and I had a compilation made up like that, and sent it to him, just to Yamaha Records for, at the time, to Yamaha Records for, I don't know, 30 years of support. Thank you very much, that kind of thing. And so I sent them one, and then when I sent that one, then Chris at Remo said, "Man, I heard about that platinum record you gave Yamaha." I said, "We want one for our office." And then Kelly Peisty calls and says, "You know that record you had made for Yamaha? You know, we sure could use one too." And then my wife, Jeannie, she said, "Well, I've been here for the whole thing. I want one of those too." I went, okay. So I had this one. So if you look real close, it says, "To Jeannie Lime."
Oh, that's amazing.
My wife.
That is amazing.
So
because she earned it just as much as you did in a different way, right? That is incredible. We've known each
other since the first grade, and we got married at 17. So it's 58 years now.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh my goodness, that's incredible. So the last thing I want to talk about while you're playing, talking about artists, is, and you alluded to it earlier. You alluded to him, and I remember talking to Bruce Boughton about this years ago, not long after he did one of the sessions, and that is just talking about your playing on the Shania records, and specifically working with Mutt Lange and what that experience was like, because he's a producer like no other, right? It's unbelievable. And I would love to know, and the fact that, if memory serves, you were the only drummer that played on both of those albums that he produced of hers, if memory serves.
There was a third one called Up. I did her first record.
That's right. You did the debut record that I don't think he produced that one.
That's
right?
correct. That was Nora Wilson, and I just had him at David Briggs.
Harold Shedd.
Yeah, that was Nora and Harold that did that. And of course, Shania had her own songs, and as the artist that she developed and blossomed into being, we would go to lunch, and with her then manager Mary, and we would go to lunch. She wanted to go to lunch every day, so we'd go to lunch every day. And I think it was called Calypso Cafe right down the street there. And we'd go to Calypso and have jerk chicken. And she would say, "So So why won't they let me do my songs? And I said, well, you know, they've got publishing deals and they have an ear for what they think that they want to present you and how they feel like you'll fit at the label with the other artists they have there. And they've got this vision for you. And she said, it's not the same vision as I have. And I said, play the game, just play the game with them. Just do, you know, get your first little success going and then insert yourself more for the next record. If you have a hit record with this, great. You got a 3-record deal, I believe. So if that was pretty common back in the 90s, was 3-record deals. So, you probably got a 3-record deal. So just play along for now. And when the opportunity comes, and sure enough, I mean, it was almost prophetic. I mean, talking about an opportunity. We finished that record. It does something. Why did you say that? Or how did you feel that? Something like that. I think it's why did you say that? And I think it made top 20 or something like that. But then when Mutt got hold of when Mutt got hold of her, when she met Mutt and Mutt, you know, just heard. They got together. She played her songs for him, and he just fell for her and her music and everything. He loved her a lot, and so he actually called me and he said, "Paul," he said, "this is Mutt Lange," and I almost dropped the phone, and he said, "You know, we're going to start on Shania, and I want to have your dates. When are you available? Because once we start, I don't want you taking any. I want you, you know, I'd like for you to just concentrate on what we're doing because I'm going to need full days, and we have to be due to the budget they've given me, and I know what the budget was, but I'm not going to share that. But due to the budget they've given me and the way this is structured, I need to get this done relatively quickly, much quicker than I'm used to working. Because of course, Mutt Lange, I don't think anybody ever gave Mutt Lange a budget. It was just like, we're just happy to have you do whatever you want to do. Right? So, so that's wonderful. That's fantastic. Mutt, I'm honored to be working with you. And I can't wait to get started. And so once we got in the studio, from having worked with Lionel Richie and James Anthony Carmichael, where we would go in and we'd work on Stuck on You. We worked on Stuck on You for 3 days. Stuck on You, 3 days. And pretty much played it the way we played it the very first time, the last time. But they wanted to work on every little individual part. And Lionel was really specific. He never wanted me to really dig in too much, referring back to Lionel. And so from having gone through laborious recording with Lionel and laborious recording with Brown Bannister and all the Amy Grant and Michael W. Smith records, we would start drum sounds at 10 a.m. in the morning, and Brown would work on every individual sound with everybody, with Dan on guitar and Jerry on guitar and the bass sound and the drums and H tom, and we wouldn't start recording until 2 o'clock the next morning with Brown Bannister. So it was nothing for me, but guys like Billy Joe Walker or Reggie Young, one of the Memphis boys, Reggie, they just went. When he wanted to go over and over and over and over and over, or go back, and if it was just like guitar, hate to use the term Larry Byram got in so much trouble with. You know what I'm about to say, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm sure you heard the studio story. I was there.
Yep.
But anyway, just the guitar thing, go back and overdub it so it fit just perfectly. Of course, now you can take and move them around. But they would have just so meticulous. He would have Dave Hungate, I want the bass to quit ringing a split second before the snare drum hits. I don't ever want the bass ringing over the snare drum because that gives the snare drum air to breathe through for mixing. It's brilliant. It's absolutely
brilliant. And if you listen to them, you're like, Of course, it makes
It
sense.
makes perfect sense. But with Mutt, it's a whole new learned technique. You have to take things to a completely different level. But his vision, I mean, just his vision. He's the one that went in the hospital after I can't think of his name, drummer with Def Leppard.
Rick Allen.
Rick. After Rick, I know his brother. His brother is Tim McGraw's. He was Tim McGraw's manager. I think he's with him. I don't know. I forgot who he's with now. He's with Taylor. He's with Taylor Swift now. But anyway,
Oh,
Rick,
okay.
he's in the hospital bed, and Mutt said goes in, and Rick is just beside himself. He's just like, I just can't believe this. My career's over, and it's just never going to happen again. And Mutt said, he said, we're going to figure out an entire triggering system for you. You're going to play, all you have to do is play Neanderthal. His favorite word for telling you what to play. Just play it Neanderthal, man. Just play it Neanderthal. Yeah. So he said, we're going to figure out a triggering system for you. You're going to play everything with your right hand, and you're going to play snare drum with your left foot. And Mutt Lange literally reinvented Rick's. I don't know if Rick will corroborate that story, but that was Mutt Lange's story. And so, swear, that was the story. Mutt said he went to see him in the hospital. He said, we're going to set up a whole triggering system for you, and you're going to keep going. You're going to be okay.
Wow.
And, of course, he did.
Yeah.
That was one of Mutt's things. He always wanted it simpler, especially after the first record. The first record was pretty much, we did that record not as specific because he didn't have the budget for the time that we spent on the next record that we did with her. And so by then, of course, she was doing her own songs. It was a completely different vibe. She was much more confident, and you talk about a hard worker. Every run through with Mutt Lange, we'd play just the first verse, just the intro and stop, just the intro and stop, just the intro and stop. Okay, we're going to change this and this on the bass, Dave. Just make sure and get off before that snare drum. He said, just please. And Mutt always said, please. He said, mate, please, if you could just have the bass like lift off just before the snare drum hits. And so, and of course, Dave, being the monster player he is, he figured out how to do it. It's a whole new learned technique. And just stuff like that. Okay, now we're going to play it from the intro through the first verse and stop. Please don't go past the first verse. I don't want to get confused here. So intro through the first verse. So we play the song again, intro through the first verse. And Shania would sing it every single time we ran it. She would sing the first verse, knowing we were going to quit. She'd sing the first verse. We quit. She'd sing the first verse. We quit. Sing the first verse, and we quit. Running and working on those individual parts and learning those pieces and parts deep inside, right?
Right.
So we didn't, like I said, on the first record, we didn't do that so much just because there was not the time. But on the second record, I can't remember which one was named which. One was Woman and Me, and the other one,
Come On Over was the second.
Come On Over
record,
was the second one. Okay, so Woman and Me was the first one. We didn't have the time or budget on that one, so that one went much faster. I think we did that one. We probably did. We just did one song a day, and maybe we did 2 songs a day on the rhythm track on that. Seemed like we only did 6 days. I think we did Monday through Saturday for that. Something like I could go back and look at my book. Writing the book, I've realized I can go back and tell you exactly where I was on what day.
That's right.
I'm sad that I didn't write down every song I played on that day. It would have really helped. Or who was on the session. That would have been great. But so the next record, then it was much more like that. Run to here, stop, run to here, stop, run to here, stop. And then finally get through the whole song. And I'll never forget, we had Michael Lamartian on keyboards on that. Multiple John Hobbs and John Jarvis and Michael Lamartian. I could hear Michael Lamartian. He wasn't used to it at all because he's a producer. Michael Lamartian gets things said, gets his program the way you want it, run it down, play the whole thing like this, and this. I like that. Play it down again. Okay, one more to his change. Michael's pretty much a third take guy. A lot of producers are second take guys. Some producers, first take is like, no, please let us do it again. Oh, I love it. Let's just fix it. So Omar is back over on piano, and Mutt says, "Okay, stop, everybody, stop. Let's take it from the top." And you can hear Omar going, "Oh God, oh God," and through the piano mics, and so we'd run it again and stop there. It'd be man, and then next time we'd run and stop. Oh, bro, give us a chance, bro, let us just, hey, bro, just.
And this is a guy who played on Steely Dan albums, and they were notorious for how many times they recorded it.
He was the.
I mean, he's on Asia, right? Yeah.
Loggins and Messina. He played on all the Log Messina hits, and I mean, This is one of the finest record keyboard players to ever walk the planet.
Yeah.
When you hear Michael Lamarty, you play, you go, man, that sounds like a hit record. Yeah, it's because you've heard him on everything, right?
That's
right.
And
bro, give me a break, bro. he's going crazy because he can't believe Mutt won't let us finish the song, right? So finally, of course, we got through it. But some players just wouldn't take his calls anymore. They just didn't want to work with him anymore, and which is a real shame because I took it as a learning experience. As a matter of fact, when we started, Come On Over was the second one. Is that right? Yeah. When we started Come On Over, I took a ton. I think it was 86 snare drums to the session, so he'd have an incredible choice of snare drums. We listened to 25, and the one he fell in love with was a chrome over brass, late 60s Slingerland drum. And so here we go again. It's a Slingerland chrome over brass, right? And that I modified, put die-cast tubes on, a wide strainer. I never could get the sound I wanted until I changed out the snare drums and put wide snares, a snare strainer on the bottom. So that always seemed to be the key to me. So he fell in love with that snare, and we call it the important snare when I'm in the studio now with Ed Steer, some studio guys and engineers. Hey, Paul, get out the important drum because I don't know, you hit it and it just sounds important. But anyway, so we that was working with Mutt, just over and over and being very specific about parts. Oh, I know what I was going to say. We were getting sounds and using the Yamaha toms, and he comes out and he says, "Mate, I love the sound of the drums. But," he said, "they're ringing too long." He says, "I want it to sound like this." And he took a stick and he hit the drum and then put his hand on it. And I went, "Oh, great! This is the don't let the note ring bass idea on steroids, right? I've got to play drum fills and reach and grab the heads
like you're a timpanist or something,
yeah,
right?
right, on each tom." And I'm going, "How are we going to do this? How are we going to?" And I had two techs with me. My tech Jim Hanley that's been with me for 30 years, and Herb Schuker, a drummer that I put with Randy Travis, 20 years ago now, and Herb's done a great job for Randy. But he was my drum tech at this. They've done a lot of tech work and on TV shows and stuff like that. Besides, and so Herb's there, and so okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to hit the drum without affecting the sound of the drum, but then muffle it? And Herb said, "Well, why don't we tape them?" I said, "Well, that's going to change the sound of the drum." And Jim said, "Well, what about cymbal felts? We could tape cymbal felts on them." And it was like, "No, you can't do that. That'll change the sound of the drum. We can't have anything on the drum head. It's going to change the sound of the drum." So between the three of us, we came up with this idea to put the cymbal felt on the bottom, multiple layers of tape, put them on the drum. You hit the drum. The minute you hit the drum, it flies off, and then it comes back down and works its way back down to kill the drum. And I call it the 25 cent rule, that you put a quarter on it or nothing on it if you want it to, the drum to ring longer, but not ring forever. You put 25 cents on it, a quarter, if you want to ring short, and 50 cents up to $1 worth of metal on it to make the thing heavier and heavier. And of course, I affectionately named them mutt flaps, right? So you can see many times on videos and studio stuff. I've had a lot of guys ask, "What is that? What do you got on the drums?" Right? And so they're mutt flaps, and we had to invent that on the second album to get the sound on the toms that Mutt wanted. They had to be wide open sounding, but not ring for long, and that was the way we accomplished that. And of course, I think some other guys now have kind of taken that idea and done a spring thing where it flies off the head. Other guys that want to spend more time on that than I do, and hopefully they can make a few bucks off of it. That's great. But that's where
and time was money, I imagine at that point too. You had to have something. So, was that at the tracking room? Where did you guys cut that?
That was in the tracking room. With the mutt flaps were invented in the tracking room. The first album we did at Soundstage recording studio, where we worked with Jimmy Bowen a lot, and Soundstage, another great studio in Nashville. As a matter of fact, when we shot the Shania documentary, the producer Joss, not Josh, but Joss, Joss Crowley, out of London, called and said, "Paul, I want you to be on Shania's documentary we're doing on Shania, and I would like for you to play. Can you recreate the tracks? And I want to film you recreating the tracks." And I went, "Okay." Well, I put together a hit snippets package that I'd done at clinics, playing along with the hits that I'd used for clinics for years. So I thought, I can do this, but this was going back and playing the whole album, but just playing all of it. So I went, sure. That's the comeback answer. Is this part playable? Yeah. Sure.
That's right.
Yeah. Maybe not right now, but it's playable.
It's playable. That's right.
So I spent the next week refiguring, like we do on TV when we do a TV pre-record, like the CMAs or CMA Christmas, and you do all the pre-records a month earlier, and then they send you the tracks. You go back, and back in the 80s, Jeff and I didn't even look at it. We wouldn't even spend the time when we shot the show. We wouldn't even spend time getting the set right. Just get up there and kind of look like you're playing, throw your arms around, and I mean, when Jeff did the Sonny and Cher show, this one time, I'll never forget it. He was doing Sonny and Cher. He and Hungate and Dean were doing Sonny and Cher, and the tom-toms, they had brought everything on stage and kind of set it there, just set it there. And Jeff, they'd set it with the toms facing the audience, on a tom stand, but the two toms together facing the audience, and instead of facing the drums where you see the toms back like that, right? But they were back, right? They're facing the audience. And Jeff, of course, being the prankster he was, he didn't even turn them around.
Oh, that's
he great. He sits there, and you're looking at, as a drummer, everybody's going, "Yeah, that's great. It's the Sonny and Cher show," right? And you look at it, and you're going, something's really wrong with that. He's not playing that. That's a pre-record. He's already done the music for that. And it was great. And there's Jeff up back there just waving his arms around. That's what we did. That's what we did for years on all the Linda Carter specials. If you go back and see the Linda Carter specials that we did also for CBS, yeah, I'm back up there, and I'm kind of like this. I think one time, my music fell off the stand, and one of the shots shows me bending over and picking the music back up.
Oh, it's amazing.
Looking right in the middle of supposed to be wailing away, right? But anyway, when they started using more cutaways, they're called cutaways. When we started doing more cutaways and close-ups, that's shot on actually a different day. Those are all reshot on dress rehearsal day. And then when they shoot the TV show, that's all about the star. And then when the production goes down, they use cutaways and cut us in to the shot. So when they're doing a close-up, I mean, if you're doing brushes or if you're doing something else, I mean, you need to be there. And so we would have to learn that. So I had a lot of experience with that from so many TV shows. So I went, yeah, sure. I've just got to rehearse this thing. So I went and woodshedded the Shania albums for a week to be able to go in and play them exactly like I'd done 30 years prior. So we get in the studio, we shoot these things over and over. We shoot these, not over and over. We shoot each song, and it's it's a big shit. It's a 5-camera shoot or something like that. He's producing out of London via Zoom, and so we do all 5 songs, and then the thing comes out, and none of that's in the documentary at all. It's interviews me a little bit, and but none of the playing was, I don't think.
What?
Oh,
wow.
So I wasted a week getting ready for that.
You got to relearn those songs, and just
so if
for no one to see it.
If you ever decide to watch the Shania documentary, there's a lot that got cut out. I got into some. I got the woohoo dance in there. I can't do the woohoo dance anymore. That was I'm older now.
It happens.
Talking about TV, there's something interesting with Lionel and Luke Bryan. I did Lionel's hits in '81, and we were doing Luke Bryan's hits in about '96. It seems, no, 2006. So I think I went back and looked, and I'm doing those hit records for Lionel Richie and Luke Bryan 25 years apart, and they're both on Idol.
That's incredible.
Is that crazy?
That's crazy.
It's just crazy.
That is crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And then the Kenny Chesney stuff. I mean, hit after hit with Kenny Chesney. So
hit after hit.
Kenny's the only one when we first started having the hits. I don't know why he quit doing it later on, but he was so happy to be having hit records. He would call a session, and we get there and say, okay, we need cards. No, you don't need your drums. Just going to be a session. It's like, what are you talking? What? So, and he knew we could be working somewhere else. So he would call us in, and the time card would be there to sign the time card to get paid. So we'd sign the time card, double scale, and go in, and there'd be a breakfast set up in the studio. And he'd treat us to a breakfast, and all give us an envelope with a bonus. Multiple $1,000 bonus just to thank us for helping him get his first hit records.
Unbelievable.
He was great.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's
that's incredible. Did Buddy produce those records? Who produced Kenny's records?
The first ones were like when we did She Thinks My Tractor's Sexy. That would have been Buddy Cannon and Nora Wilson.
Okay.
And after about I don't know, we did maybe 3 albums with those two producing, 2 or 3 albums with those two producing, and then Nora started having some health problems.
Okay.
And so then Buddy took over the production himself. There's Jacob Tolliver from the $1 Million Quartet trying to get.
Oh, cool.
Great on Kenny's part to treat us like that. It was great.
It's incredible. It's incredible. Yeah. Well, Paul, I could sit here for the rest of the night and just ask you. I may have to beg you to come back and do another episode, and we can just sit and let's just do part 2. I have so many more questions. I want to talk to you about Linda Carter. My first crush that I ever had in my life was watching Wonder Woman when I was a little boy, and like
a dear friend. Yeah. I might tell a story for the first time in public.
Yeah. I can't thank you enough first of all, for your time today. But I just ultimately can't thank you enough for a lifetime of music that you have provided all of us.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. It's almost like it was somebody else. It really is. I look at it now, and it's, when you get that busy, when I moved to LA, guitar player friend of mine, Vic Stewart, rode out with me when I moved to LA, and he said, you're not even going to know when you're the cat. You're going to be so busy, you're not even going to know when you're the cat. And I'm wow, no, I think I'm going to know if I'm the cat or not. And something. You're working with your friends, you're just playing music, you're enjoying what you do, and you go from one to the other, and sometimes they turn into a blur. And Sometimes some stick out. Some of my favorite records that I played on stick out, that I can remember where I was, and they weren't hit records. And I think they're some of the best records I ever played on.
Yeah.
Next time, ask me about a Randy Travis hit that Hungate and I are on together, and Brent Mason. Yeah, you got to hear the story about Highway Junkie.
Okay.
Highway Junkie.
So we're gonna make an agreement right now that I'm gonna reach out to Tracy and say, all right, we got to get episode 2 on the books, because
episode 2.
I have a million more questions I want to ask you. This has been a highlight of my life, getting to just hang out and talk with you. This has been really amazing, and I can't thank you enough for this, Paul.
Well, thank you so much, Brad, for asking me, and it's always an honor to share. It really is. I'm so thankful to be able to do that.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, best of luck to you, Paul.
Right. You too.
I'd like to thank my guest Paul Leim for being on the podcast. I had so much fun hanging out and talking with him. Thanks for listening to the Bandwich Tapes. Please spread the word and tell someone about the show. Thanks for listening.